presenting about some of the factors that influence autistic people and other people who have anxiety during the holiday season in particular. I'm Michelle Schmidt. I'm the Executive Director for Autism Community Training, and I'm happy to be here today on the unceded ancestral and territory of the Matsqui and Sumas First Nations people, which is where I live in Abbotsford. However, it's important to note that our office, Autism Community Training, is located on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples who have lived in this area since before recorded time. These nations are Hunkaminam and Squamish-speaking peoples. Those languages are part of the Salish language family and date back many millennia. We pay our respects to elders past and to those present and emerging. And as settlers to this land, we are committed to working toward reconciliation. I want to give a brief shout out to our staff. Jordan, you've probably been in communication with at some point, who has done a lot of work behind the scenes to help make this event happen. Ryan, who is here today providing tech support. Remy is usually here for backup support. However, I'm not sure he's going to be able to be here today. He has a young family, and he will be with them this morning. Thanks also to Allison, who is our Community Liaison Officer, and Linda Liang, who provides all of the background work related to our finances. So we're a small but mighty team. Thank you also to Odin Books. Odin has been a terrific sponsor for our events for the past year and beyond. They are specifically providing discounts, 10% discounts if you use the event code 2023. They actually have a book list for this particular event, and you can see from this screenshot that I took that there are at least 10 pages of information related specifically to anxiety. And so feel free to go to their website or shop in person. I want to also give a shout out to Tyler and Monica, who are here today to provide ASL support. And the nice thing about being here where we've got a web stream happening, please be sure that you are authentically yourself. You've got the opportunity to stretch, stand, or make any movements that you need to make to ensure that you're comfortable. That might mean stepping away for a brief moment to get a glass of water or whatever. Just make sure you take care of yourself. And on that note, I will turn things over to Elsbeth. I can say much about her work, which you would have read in her bio when you registered for this event. But I think it's most important that I just simply turn things over to Elsbeth so you can hear from her personally. Elsbeth, over to you. Thank you for being here today.
Hey everyone, thank you for having me today, and thank you for taking your time to be here with us as we discuss one of the most anxious times of the year, which is the December and into January season. My name is Elsbeth Dodman. I am a 35-year-old autistic woman. I am in London, Ontario. I'm coming to you from the land on Treaty 6. And I live at home with my family and my 2 cats. One of those cats will likely make an appearance. Yeah, so let's discuss. There are a number of holidays which fall in the December season. We've got Christmas, Hanukkah, and Kwanzaa as 3 of them. And holidays may not be the happiest time for everyone for a myriad of reasons. This is not necessarily an autism thing. This may just be a part of people's lives. You may be experiencing loss or separation from friends or family, especially if you have family that's outside the country or who live a great distance from you. You may have lost a loved one to illness. Someone may have died in your family. Loneliness can be a real factor for people during this time if they are experiencing separation or isolation. Financial stress. I know a lot of us right now are feeling the economic pinch, and the holidays, we can really put a lot of pressure on ourselves to deliver for other people or to make it the happiest time of the year. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and sometimes we put so much pressure that we can't live up to those expectations. And so even just outside of autism or an anxiety disorder, this can be a pretty stressful time for people. And it could be a lot of work for parents and caregivers, planning, setting up a holiday event, booking tickets, traveling, and organizing everybody in your family can be a lot. So we need to understand that this is already a pretty stress-inducing time, and that's pretty normal for a lot of people, even outside of the autistic experience. Stress specifically for autistic people may include change in routine. So we have school-age kids and youth who go from having everything, a school schedule, a routine, a time that they're supposed to wake up, first period, second period, and all of a sudden, there's nothing. They go from having all of this structure. Well, we may need to acknowledge that the school system is imperfect and may not be the best structure that your child has in their life. It is still a structure, and it is a reliable cycle that your child goes throughout every week. And then all of a sudden, we have a holiday, which means they don't have any structure. They don't have to keep up with the routine. And this sudden break can cause a lot of dysregulation for your child. Even though they may not have enjoyed school and maybe really looking forward to that holiday, having that sudden change in routine and what they should expect in their day and the flow of their day can still be stress-inducing. I know I looked forward to the holidays, but still experienced a period of stress. And that stress can come back when I go back into the school cycle of going back to school. I just went from having nothing, of being able to do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, to suddenly having to be back into a routine and facing some of the challenges that come with the school environment. Your child may lose skills, or skills may regress. So if they were working on executive functioning skills, like using a planner, they may lose or have those skills regress or have difficulty getting back into those skills when they go back into the school cycle. They may have emotional dysregulation, again, not being able to handle that switch, all to nothing, nothing to all. And so you may see that person was working on or building skills, and we're seeing them struggle again with things that that they were working on, or that maybe they were getting down pat. This struggle can also include sleep, or regulating themselves in a new environment. You may be traveling for the holidays, and so your child is learning the routine of a new house. You're visiting grandma, you're visiting an auntie or a friend's house, and the expectations or the routine and flow of that home environment is different from their home environment. And so sleeping may be dysregulated. Coming to understand what behaviors are acceptable as a guest versus, I live in my house, can be a lot. Overstimulation is huge. Shopping centers are very crowded right now. Restaurants and events are common. Let's go out to eat, let's go out to celebrate. let's go to this concert, let's go to this event. And this can be a lot for your child who is experiencing sound, sight, smells, and all of this coming at them at once. It can be a lot for an autistic person to deal with, and they may not be able to deal with that as smoothly as they would on a regular day. There's a lot of expectations to be very social. There's a lot of expectations to show up to church, to a temple, to religious gatherings, or just to family gatherings. You may have the whole family over, and that's suddenly a lot of people under one roof. You may be expected to host a family gathering or attend somebody else's home. And so your child may really try, feel the pressure to be involved and to be present and not be rude or disrespectful, to join in. But at the same time, they're dealing with social anxiety. They may not know how to be social in those situations. And so this could be a really big stressor for that person. They may not know when an event is going to end. How long are we going to be at grandma's house? How long is the concert going to go for? Will we be expected to stay after the concert? And if so, for how long? So that can also, needing to know when something is going on, but also how long am I going to be there? This can be compounded if family doesn't understand autism or sensory needs or developmental disabilities in general. So that stress may also be something that the parents are feeling, because now I have to deal with Uncle so-and-so who has strong opinions about my disabled child. And the disabled child also has to deal with Uncle so-and-so who has strong opinions about them. So your child may be masking. Be good, keep your hands still, make eye contact, smile, but don't sit too close to people, trying to juggle and remember all of their social rules, all their social etiquettes, and that can really burn this person out. That's a lot of extra mental work that person has to do, and it often involves that person putting other people's wants, comforts, and needs before their own. This can also show up. I know I go to church a lot throughout this season, and so it is expected that you are sitting still, you are quiet, and you are pious during the church service. And that service can be long, and there can be multiple services in a day. So that can be a lot for someone. You may have a child who experiences overexcitement for the holidays. We build up Christmas. We build up, waiting for Santa to come. We build up this one morning of opening gifts. And so there was one individual that I knew that you could not talk about Christmas until Christmas Day, because if you brought up Christmas, they thought it was Christmas today, right now. Right now it is Christmas. So that made it very difficult around the season, because if you go into any store, you are bombarded with holiday music, and that person is now very excited. It's Christmas right now. No, it is Christmas in 2 weeks. It is not Christmas right now. And so how do we manage that excitement, and how do we get through all of the many early school assemblies, the parties, the in-store experiences where you go in and now there's decorations in like the day before Halloween, and with somebody who has difficulty regulating or understanding that Christmas isn't right now. Christmas is in 2 weeks, 5 weeks away. Signs of stress. It's going to look different for everybody. It's important that you pay attention and learn your person that you are working with, that you are supporting, because everyone's going to present stress differently. Tooth grinding. So you may have somebody who grinds their teeth. You may have skin picking, someone who chews their fingernails or pulls on their hair. You may have an individual who experiences a rise in OCD. So as that anxiety sets in, their system says, hey, I feel really out of control. And OCD steps up and says, hey, I've got a great way for you to feel in control again. All you need to do is touch the doorknob 5 times and things will be fine. However, it can become a bit of a feedback loop, as in, if I don't touch that doorknob 5 times, now I have more stress, and that's going to feed into my OCD and obsessive tendencies. Tension is held in the body. So when I'm stressed, I tend to lean forward a lot. And you can see this if you're riding in a car with me. Rather than sitting back in the seat, I'm really, really reclined forward a lot, unable to sit back. And so you can see how the body holds on to that stress. Crying, screaming, meltdowns, shutdowns, and panic attacks are some clear signs that stress is happening. And aggression. So you may have somebody who is very short, very snippy with you, who lashes out over seemingly little things, gets angry very quickly. And this may be because they are extremely anxious and scared. So it's not so much what you have done, but that they are extremely upset as it is. And now you've asked them if they want to go out to eat and where they would like to eat. And it just comes out and explodes. Trouble sleeping. And this can be interesting because your child probably has trouble sleeping all the time. So autism and sleep is its own issue. And so that might be difficult to pick up, but this can definitely show up, especially as routines change. You may find that your individual really sinks into their hyperfocus, their special interests. They really have a restricted tunnel vision. Yes, I know, Cricket. My cat has decided to join us. They really focus a lot on their special interests to the exclusion of all else. And this is a self-soothing measure. I'm going to focus on the things that I like because I'm stressed. So I'm trying to relieve that stress by focusing a lot on the things that make me happy. This can become problematic if that individual then can't get homework done or get through the rest of their day. They can't let go of that item because they are trying to self-soothe and deal with stress. So I'm not asking you, and I really need to highlight this, that we're not taking a special interest away from someone, but that we do need to keep an eye out for when it becomes extremely restrictive, because that may be a sign that this person is really stressed. The key here is not to take that item away, because that's acting as a de-stressor to de-escalate this person. We want to find out where that stress is coming from and address that stress, so that the individual feels like, I can put this down now because I feel comfortable enough to engage in other things. I'm not having to spend a lot of my time de-stressing or de-escalating. I am now safe to go out and do other stuff. This is for our older group who have access to money. Overspending on special interest items, especially if your individual has access to a credit card. We tend to think of autistic people only up to the age of 16, if that. But autism is for life. And so one of the ways that our older cohorts, my older colleagues and I, I'm very much in this group, tend to rely on retail therapy, because if my favorite thing in the world is Bluey, and I have access to an Amazon account and a credit card, it's very easy for me to spend my money on things that I like as a way to say I deserve a treat, or I need something to help me get through this really tough time. So overspending can be a way that person is dealing with stress or loneliness in their environment. You may also find that this person had increased difficulty in making choices, and that also comes down to our overspending. As that person might say, do I need money for bus tickets or food or rent? Or do I buy myself this latest video game that I really, really want? And making those choices may be quite difficult for this person. But it may also come down to simple choices like what book I want to read, or what activity do I want to do next. Can become difficult, even if these are things that this person does genuinely want to do. This isn't necessarily just tasks that the person is trying to avoid. It can also be tasks that this person really does love, and they're now having a lot of trouble choosing or making those next steps to even get to those activities. And that can be a large sign of stress. This is again for this last one is again for our for our older group. You may notice that your individual is drinking or using marijuana in order to relax, calm down in social situations, to be in those very public settings, to be in those very social settings that we see around the holidays, how to deal with social anxiety. And drinking and using marijuana as a way to alleviate anxiety and to be able to get to a place where they can be social without feeling stressed, maybe a way that they are self-medicating. So, keep an eye on that. I'm not suggesting that, stopping all alcohol or marijuana consumption is a good idea. There is definitely healthy moderation in these things, but the key is moderation, and not that person has to rely on these things in order to get by. Or that they are using in excess, that they are becoming sick, or it is unhealthy. So just keeping an eye and being aware of that may be something that our older, so 16 plus group may be using as a way to address their stress. Our next part is building a toolkit. Your toolkit will change over time. What works today is not going to work tomorrow. You're going to need to have a broad toolkit in order to address situations in different settings, and to be able to say, this won't work today, but I do have other strategies I can rely on. Firstly, and I usually just talk about this just to get it out of the way, meds or no meds. Sometimes you will have people that say, I don't want to rely on pharmaceuticals to address my anxiety. And this is acceptable. That's totally fine. It's your choice whether you want to use medication or not. And that should always be something that somebody is able to choose, or say, no, that's a deal breaker for me. However, if you do choose to use medication to address anxiety, medication should never be the only toolkit that's in your repertoire. You should have other things that help you back up your meds. Medication is never a cure-all. It will not stop you from ever having a panic attack again. I can personally testify to that. It will never stop you from being depressed ever again. I can also testify to that. So we need to build up a toolkit that doesn't just rely on medication, if meds are the way that we wish to go. We also need to be aware that with medication, you may not be able to drink or consume marijuana. So if that's something that you are doing around the holidays, be aware of what medication you are on. Talk to a pharmacist. Make sure that you know what is safe. Don't mix drugs. It's not a great time. Enforcing a bedtime is ridiculously hard for autistic people in the first place because sleep tends to be a challenge in the first place. Sleep is one of the things that I take medication for. But also, we have these fancy little devices called cell phones and iPads, which have access to all kinds of wonderful information and videos and fun games that we can just shine into our faces before bed. And whether you're autistic or not, that's not a great idea before you go to bed. So enforcing a bedtime can really help with mental health. It's important that we also enforce no screen time before bed. And I know that that's extremely difficult. One of the reasons that autistic people may stay up very late at night is because it's quiet. It's still. There's no one coming to ask me did you do your laundry? Can you go do this task? I can sit quietly and play video games as long as I want, uninterrupted. It's very peaceful. Cars quiet down on the road, depending on where you live. There's not as much ambient noise because people have all gone to bed and quieted down. So all of a sudden, this person has a lot of peace. And so staying up late may be a way for that person to recuperate, quiet time, to enjoy what they want to enjoy without interruption. So saying to them, go to bed early might be a very hard sell. Going outside. This is especially important as if you look out your window, depending on where you are, you may notice that it is gray and rainy or snowy, and it's going to be gray and rainy or snowy for many days to come. Making sure that you do get outside of the four walls of your house, even if you're just going to walk to your mailbox, even if you're just walking up and down your driveway, or you take a quick walk around the block, or you stand on your balcony. Get out of the four walls. And I say this because one of the things that I notice is that I can stay in one bedroom all day, 4 days. And this is because I'm restricting the stimulation that I'm getting. I know my environment. I've restricted my environment, and I can do that. But that does have detrimental effects to my mental health. I will go with my mom just to go to the grocery store, and that's a way to get out of my house. And this one can also be difficult for people because sometimes going outside can cause a lot of anxiety for people, especially if you're going to the store, or someone might have difficulty going for a walk by themselves. So you as a parent might say, well, that means that I have to get everybody together, get all the boots and coats on, make sure everyone's gone to the bathroom, and then go outside. And then the child will say, oh, but I have to go to the bathroom. but it truly having, giving that person a exercise and time outside the home is very important. Especially for young people, having time to run around outside and scream is really good for emotional regulation. I know there's people who complain about kids running outside and screaming, but that's a very important time for kids to have. And even as we're older, getting time to run outside and scream is important for grown people too. So make sure that you are even just sitting on your front porch for a little bit. Go outside. Having someone you trust to talk to, or a healthy way to express your stress. My cat is again making noise. And I know that we are dealing with a population that may not be able to speak or may have limited communication, whether that's text-to-speech apps, sign language, whether that's communicating by writing or typing, and so they may use other ways to talk to people, or communicate their wants rather than just speaking. But it is important that they have a way to communicate, however that happens, with someone that is healthy, so that they're not hitting their sister, so that they're not biting people to get your attention, but they're able to express to you, I'm stressed, I'm scared, I'm hungry, I'm really tired because I didn't sleep very well. Whether they have art. So we think of not less conventional, but other ways that people can express themselves, whether it's listening to music that helps them to feel what they're feeling and get those feelings out, or drawing or making art to get their feelings out. If they need to be aggressive, hitting a pillow or having a punching bag in the basement to get that out in a way that doesn't hurt anybody, that is honoring their feelings. How are we helping that person to safely and productively express what they're going through so that they're not expressing it in harmful or destructive ways? I know we tend to just think about speaking, just talking, but there's so many other ways that people can communicate what their needs are, and it's important that they have a way to express themselves in a healthy manner. Let's make a plan for a meltdown, a shutdown, or a panic attack before it happens. What tends to work? What tends to happen for your child, your individual, or yourself during those times? If I have a plan, I'm willing to take more risks in a scenario because I know I have a backup plan for myself when things go badly. If I don't have a plan, I can't risk things going badly because we've already hit bad. I can't afford for it to get any worse. When I was at school, there was a plan that I would go to the special ed room and calm down, and they had some of my medication, and they were made aware that I had panic attacks. So I knew that I had a safety plan in place for when that happened. And that meant that I could say to myself, I'm feeling anxious, but let's wait 5 minutes. And if in 5 minutes I still feel badly or I feel worse, I can go down to the special ed room and we can deal with it from there. I tend to also color code my anxiety. So I do it sort of like the cross light, the stoplights. Green, I don't feel anxious at all, and I can get through my daily tasks. Yellow, I feel a bit anxious, but I can still get through my daily tasks. Orange, I am feeling anxious and it's starting to affect my daily tasks. Red, I'm feeling very anxious and I can't get through my daily tasks. For me, what I would determine a code red will involve me taking my extra anti-anxiety medication. For me, one of my other anxiety codes is if I feel that I am a danger to myself or other people, I take my anti-anxiety medication and calm down. And after that, I report it to somebody. Today, I felt like I was a danger to myself or others, and I took my meds and I feel okay now. Or, that way somebody knows that this has happened other than me. We deal with it and then we report it so that if this is something that keeps coming up, there's somebody else other than me that knows that this has happened. and we can then maybe talk about it. Again, this may be an issue for some of you, our individuals who struggle with communication or struggle to be understood by other people. So reporting this may be very difficult. But if you are able to report it, do. Grounding activities. And this is for when I'm in a panic attack or when I'm feeling anxious. Counting cars, counting colors, playing a video game. So actually, I have a Nintendo Switch that I'll use. And I'll bring with me a game, especially if I'm going on an airplane or a long car ride or something. And this is really helpful to take my mind off of, I'm feeling really scared right now. Let's not think about that. Let's let Mario get this nice star and run around throwing blue shells at people. I also have phone games. Your cell phone now has, yeah, there's my cat on my phone, has a lot of games that you can install on it, little puzzle games. I have Pokemon Go on my phone, and that can be a thing that I say, hey, let's not think about how anxious we are. Look at this instead. I may also use my phone to call my mom. And this is a way that I'm able to talk to somebody, go for a walk, calm down, and then come back when I'm ready to be okay. You know, when I get back to being okay. One of the ways that I deal with panic attacks is lying down on my stomach. And this is going to compress my diaphragm. You can't hyperventilate when you're lying on your stomach. You're weighing yourself down. This will take about 5 to 10 minutes for you to see any real change. And that's why I'll get my phone or my game so that I can play and distract myself while I'm lying down and wait for that my breathing to regulate. Because a lot of panic attack, that vertigo feeling, that dysregulation that you're feeling, is because you're hyperventilating and you're not getting enough oxygen. So getting yourself to breathe again in a calmer, more regulated way can really help you. So lying down is something that I'll tend to do. I'll also allow myself to escape a social situation or leave a classroom. And it's kind of gotten to the point in my life where I will say, listen, I can have this panic attack in your classroom, or I can go for a walk. I can call my mom and come back if and when I'm ready. Otherwise, this is going to be a very awkward situation for you, me, and everybody else involved. I learned very young, having panic attacks when I was little, that no one can really deal with a panic attack but me, because it's happening in my body. And therefore, I need to be the one making those choices, even if it's not necessarily socially acceptable for me to leave a classroom. I'm going to do it because my health and my wellness is something that I'm responsible for, and that needs to come first. So if I can quietly leave a store, leave a classroom, leave a social situation, and find a way to calm down, that's what I need to do for my wellness, but also, you know, for other people in the room, because they probably don't want to be a part of my panic attack either. Letting your child know that they can retreat during a large gathering. Is there somewhere that they can go to calm down? Is there somewhere quiet for them to retreat to? And that they can go to be quiet. And again, having that quiet space for them is, you know, a really great way for them to say, I know that I can leave if I need to. When I was little, I would stand by the auditorium door at a show so that I could watch, but I also knew that I could leave immediately. I was right by the door. If something got too loud or too overwhelming, I could leave immediately. calm down, and then maybe come back later. So this can be a good way for your child to still participate, but know that they have an escape plan and that they are in control of their situation, that they have a way to get themselves somewhere safe pretty quickly, rather than saying, I feel out of control, I don't know how to leave, I'm stuck, and now I'm panicking. So let's give people a way that they feel that they can control their situation. One of my other props that I do for when I'm really anxious is that I'll get a toy, an item, and I want to put that stress into that item and then give it away. So this really works for me if I know that I have to go on an airplane ride and I'm really scared of airplanes. I'm really, really, really don't like them. And so for weeks before I go on the airplane ride, my brain is just cycling through, I'm going to go on an airplane. I don't want to go on the airplane. I'm going to go on the airplane. I don't want to go on the airplane. And that's not very productive because that's 2 weeks away. So I want to put that stress into something and then give it to somebody else or put it on a shelf. And when my brain starts to cycle again, I say, I don't have that right now. It's in this, and I put it away. It's, I gave it to my mom. I gave it to, my sibling. I put it on a shelf. And, you can have multiple things for different stressors. I find that this stops working the closer that airplane ride gets. So it gets harder and harder to put that down when the airplane ride is tomorrow. So this has its limitations, but I found that really helps for stuff that I'm really ruminating about as it's coming up. Hot showers. I know that some of our population doesn't do well with showering because of stimulation, but hot showers calm your muscles. It's a muscle relaxant. And I'll use that sometimes instead of taking my extra medication, because that can be a really easy way to calm down. We talked about that already. Bringing a comfort item or headphones to events. So I bring a very soft stuffed animal with me, or I bring my headphones. These are construction earmuffs. They're not fancy. You don't need to necessarily buy a whole lot. These work just fine, and these can help, again, create some control so that person can make things quieter and then maybe stay in a situation for longer. Let's make plans to do fun things. What are we looking forward to? Sometimes when we're stressed, we can be all doom and gloom, but what's fun? What's coming up? How can I de-stress this situation? What are activities that would make me very happy? How can I look forward to something? Band-aids and polysporin. Your individual may start picking at their skin. If they get zits, if they get a little scratch, they may start picking at it. Band-aids to cover it up, polysporin to disinfect, if they will tolerate it. Sometimes sensory means that child will not. But if you can, Band-aid to keep your hands off of it, polysporin to keep it clean. Yes, Cricket, it's true. My cat's very mouthy today. I use smoothies to get around getting fruits and vegetables. So how are we going to alleviate somebody's diet, especially if they have a really restrictive diet? Offering somebody something in a different manner. So your child may eat ketchup, but they won't touch a tomato. I put most of my fruit and veggies in a blender, and because it's the texture has changed, I find that helps me to get that intake. I want to be kind to myself. a lot of autistic people and neurodivergent people in general hear a lot of negativity about themselves, a lot of negative messaging, a lot of we can really internalize this if you had been better, if you had tried harder, if you should have, you could have, why didn't you? And we really want to say to ourselves, I care about you. I know that you're struggling. I understand that I'm going to have difficulties. This is very hard for you right now, but you're doing your best. How do we be kind to ourselves? Understanding that I will lose my executive function when I get back into school. I know that that's going to happen. So I'm not going to be hard on myself when it does happen, because I know that that's going to happen. Maybe we try getting more supports around that child as they transition back into school. I know, as I say that, it's a lot to get supports around your child, period. But how can we come around that child coming back into the school routine, whether that's practicing them getting up and getting ready for school a few days before we actually have to do the real thing, whether that's helping them keep a planner during the holidays, even if it's just writing down the fun stuff that's going to happen. I know that I'm going to experience anxiety, so I'm going to be gentle and more forgiving with myself. Having a panic attack, a meltdown, or a shutdown is not a choice. It is an extremely exhausting, traumatic, and painful event that can also be embarrassing for that person, as they feel out of control, or that they were silly or ridiculous for being wound up over nothing. And so we want to be kind to ourselves. And sometimes that's just eating cereal for dinner and watching 5 episodes of Bluey. Sometimes that's having planning our favorite event, or saying, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to go tobogganing and I really like that. That how do you be kind to yourself? And sometimes that's also speaking kindly to yourself, making sure that internal voice is also very kind. So care for the caregivers, and this is our last section before we get into questions. Caregiver burnout and stress is real, and over the holidays it's extra real, but with like Christmas lights wrapped around it. When do you get time for yourself? Families may feel extremely isolated, both from their extended family and from their community, because if you are the only family that you know of who has a child with a disability, you may feel very isolated. You may not feel that you have a lot of people that you can talk to. Where do you get time for you? How are you kind to yourself and say, I did the best that I could. Maybe the things that I tried today didn't work, but I did the best that I could, and I learned something new, and it's okay to feel upset that my efforts didn't work out the way that I wanted to. I want to acknowledge that I feel badly because I wasn't able to help my child today, or that this thing that I had planned didn't work out the way that I wanted it to. What's in your toolkit? Are these things healthy things that are in our toolkits, or unhealthy things that are in our toolkits? Another thing is, how do we deal with relatives? Because you may be taking the brunt from your parents or your siblings or your in-laws for the way that your child is behaving, and what your child needs in a social situation. We hear relatives say, well, if you leave that child with me, they won't behave. They'd never do that again. Or back in my day, we would never have let a kid act out like that. That would have earned them a smack, or something to that effect. Why do you have them on so many medications? Why don't you just discipline them more? You let them have the iPad too much. So this can be really, really draining on parents, because you are trying your best, And you want the best for your child, and it can be difficult when somebody else comes in and tells you, what you're doing isn't correct. Some of your relatives may be very supportive. They listen and they're trying. Some of your relatives maybe don't get it, but they are trying and they're listening. And that's not nothing. They may not always use the right language. They may ask some questions that are, maybe really obvious or maybe not appropriate, but they are trying. And then there are some relatives that don't want to listen at all, and they're not interested, and they're not trying. And it is not your job to make people care. Your in-laws, your relatives also have Google. they also can try. Communication, as something I have learned as an autistic person, is like building a bridge. But you can't build the whole thing yourself. It takes effort from both sides to build a bridge properly that will be sustained and that will last. It's not your job to make people care. It's not up to you to build the whole bridge. If a relative, a friend, somebody isn't going to put in the effort, then that's up to them. That's not your fault, or you don't need to own that. Standing up for your child, because your child is also hearing these things that their relatives are saying about them. And your child works extremely hard. Hours of therapy, hours of support. They are, trying to learn a lot of things that many people take for granted. Things that come so easily to others, they're trying their best to get and to learn how to do. And to have people treat them poorly for their efforts or respond to them in a negative way is rude and disrespectful towards that child's effort. So, standing up for your kid. I got bullied at school. I don't need to be mistreated in my home or with my family. In that regard, personally, I tend to have a mental backpack that's packed by the door. I tend to come with an actual backpack full of cool fidget toys, but I also have a mental backpack that's ready to go at a moment's notice. If somebody is treating me badly, we're like mentally, I'm gone. I'm not here for it. It didn't get to be a 35-year-old autistic person by sitting around and taking flack from other people in that regard. My needs are my responsibility. And, I've been bullied a lot at school. I'm not going to be bullied in my own home. Rejection is the hardest for when it comes from your family. When it comes from the people you wanted to care about you the most. You wanted these people to try hard for you because you are trying hard for them. And when they don't reciprocate, that can be really crushing. So it's important that if we have relatives or people in our lives that don't understand and aren't trying, that we try to shut down those bad conversations before they become a fight, or we don't take responsibility or ownership for their lack of caring or trying, and that we say, you know what, if you are not going to try for me, then I don't need you in my life. If you are willing to try and you're willing to listen and you're willing to put forth an effort, then let's talk and we'll make an effort. But if you're not going to, then I can't make you. The last piece of advice for parents that I have, actually the second last piece, because I kind of forgot something further up, is listen to a lot of different autistic people, as many as you can. Even if they don't speak the way I speak, whether they use sign language, whether they write or type, whether they use picture cards, however they communicate, listen to them, take them seriously, hear them out. and listen to the spirit of what they're saying, because some of what I have said to you today may not resonate with you, but something somebody else says might click, and you might say, that's what I needed to hear. That's the piece that I needed. So the more voices you listen to, the more you will be able to understand, the more tools you will build in your toolkit, and the better off you're going to be, because you're going to have a wealth of different opinions, voices, and experiences. So I really need to emphasize that no matter how people communicate, listen to them, hear them, and try to have that experience with them, listening to many different voices. The last piece, because I forgot it further up, is when I'm picking out fidget toys for where I'm going places, I tend to have two types: noisy types and quiet types. So if I have something like a spinner, it's loud, and it's not loud, but it does make a noise, and it can be distracting. So I may choose a quieter, less distracting toy to bring with me to a classroom, an auditorium, something that I can have that's not going to make a huge lot of noise or be very visually distracting. So having a selection of toys, having a selection of fidget things to bring with you, so that you can say, this is something I can bring to a more quiet event that needs to be a bit more subtle, and this is something I can bring with me to an event where I can be a bit louder. And these are also some small comfort items that I drop all over my computer that I have with me. So having that in your toolkit also helps. I want to thank you all today for spending your time with me, and I hope that I was able to help you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the Q&A section, and I would like to open up to that.
Thank you so much, Elsbeth, for that very informative presentation. We are most grateful to have you here today. We do have a number of questions. The first question that I would like to ask you comes from one of our participants who's a family member. And the question relates to signs of boredom. And so the question specifically is, boredom actually a sign of stress? We get frustrated because our child seems selfish in not letting the rest of the family enjoy an outing.
Yeah, boredom can be a sign of stress, and especially not knowing how long an activity is going to last. So when I'm doing an outing, how long do I need to sort of mentally prepare or plan to have myself in this situation? I notice that as I get older, sometimes I can be a bit resentful because a lot of my special interests kind of get pathologized, as in, well, Elsbeth spends too much time talking about Dungeons and Dragons and nobody really wants to listen to that. But Elsbeth is expected to go to things that my parents enjoy or that my sister enjoys. And it's polite even to talk about those things or engage with other people. So as I got older, I kind of, have noticed that I've become a little bit feeling that there's a disparity between, my stuff that I like being, well, we can only have so much time to deal with that, but we have to, make way for other stuff. So I would try to address with that young person, how long an activity is going to last. If we know that that young person is going to be bored, is there some space within that activity for that child to go? So if they bring a toy or a game and they're saying, well, I need to retreat for a bit, and then I can come back and rejoin, can I go to a quiet room or to a part of the house? Can I, sit quietly and draw? Is there a way for me to disengage and do stuff that I like and then come back? to the conversation or jump in? Is there a way that if that person is too young to, take an Uber home, sometimes I'll leave an event early. I've spent an hour and a half. I mentally budgeted for an hour and a half, and now it's time to leave. Can that person go from the event? And obviously, if that person is too young, you're not sending your 8-year-old home by themselves. But is there a way for that person to know how long they need, but also is there a way for them to disengage? Yeah.
Thank you. I just want to pick up on what you just mentioned about mentally budgeted for a certain amount of time. And I'm thinking, so you as a 35-year-old adult are mentally budgeting. And then I'm reminded of your comment you made earlier around Christmas being now. So you go into a store, you hear Christmas music that happens to begin right after Halloween. And so you think it's Christmas. So for younger children, or for perhaps children that don't have that ability, or adults that don't have necessarily that ability to mentally budget, what are some suggestions that you might recommend? And I apologize, I've got my rescue dog down here on the floor beside me making noises. So apologies for that.
I love dogs. So this works out very well for me. I think working around, for me, I would try to start looking at a calendar and say, marking down, and then we can visually count down how many days until the holiday. I know that for some autistic people, time and the concept of this, this is how long I have to wait, can be difficult. But if we can create a visual calendar or a visual way to show them this is how much time. I know at our house we have a large whiteboard that is a calendar, and so this many days, this is how long, and engaging that child, if you're able to, engaging that child in erasing a day, or this is the week leading up to, so that they can be active in counting down. Trying to engage them in other things, so redirecting towards but before Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or Christmas or whatever we're celebrating, we have these events that are coming up, and you're very much looking forward to those. And so trying to redirect somebody towards those things, acknowledging their excitement, because this is a joyful experience for that person. They're excited. I'm happy that this is going to happen. And you're very excited, and that's wonderful. I'm happy that you're really excited and looking forward to this. But before we do this, we're going to have these other activities, or let's count down the number of days that we have left on the calendar, and you can erase another day on the calendar because today is now over. Trying to help a person that way to get through to. I know one of the more extreme ones was that the family just didn't mention that holiday until it was in fact Christmas Day. they really tried to stop, because any mention of it would mean that it was Christmas now. Right. and that was a bit much, but yeah.
Okay, thank you. Another question. So oftentimes at this holiday season, we're in large public places. How do you find quiet places that you might go to sort of have a safe haven to be in when you might be feeling stressed out because you're in a large public, crowded, noisy, hot place?
Yeah. If I'm at a family member's, I will rudely invite myself into a space that is quiet. If that's a stairwell, if that's a side room. There have been times where I've stepped into a bathroom and just quietly counted to 20 and then gone back out. I will bring stuff for myself. So I'll bring an art book and I'll draw. I will bring headphones if I can't go to some place that's quiet. I'm going to make it quiet, or at least quieter. If you can communicate to a family member that you need to go, or if you can find a way to communicate with your child to say, this is where we will meet up. This is I don't mind leaving with you, but I need to know that we're leaving, that we need to leave now. And also taking that child seriously when they come to you and say, I gotta go. Because that person is probably coming to you as sort of a last resort. Like I've tried to stick it out, and now I really got to go. If I'm at an event, I will usually try to go outside, and sometimes this can be scary for people because I've suddenly disappeared, and I haven't necessarily gone very far because I'm pretty anxious, so I'm scared to go too far. So I'll usually go outside and there's cold air and there's quiet for a minute. And again, trying to get myself to, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that way I can get to those things. My personal strategies are not really robust around this, so I tend to just bottle it, and that's not healthy. I tend to sort of burn on the inside, and it can feel like a burning, like your brain is starting to just panic and freak out and say, I gotta go, I gotta go. Why can't anybody see that this is too loud, this is too much, I gotta go. And this is a type of masking, because I'm outwardly doing fine, so as not to be rude or disrespectful or to hurt other people, but on the inside, I'm in a lot of pain, and my brain is starting to freak out and panic, and it hurts. It can be a physical pain. And that can lead to a bit of a meltdown or a shutdown or even a panic attack, because I've got a lot going on and I'm not managing it well. So any way that you can find to communicate with your child to say, if you need to leave, this is our signal, and we will go outside. I know at my one family gathering, my dad would take my sister and I for a walk around the block, and we just look at the lights. I like those lights. I don't really like those ones. These ones are pretty cool, aren't they? And go for a walk around the block, and then come back. And that was a good way to retreat. You may notice that your child is running around the house trying to find somewhere to go. Like they're not really settling. They're trying to find a spot. Right. An easily defensible spot. They may be looking for somewhere that has less foot traffic. So cupboards, closets, unused rooms that have few doors and entryways, so that they can really restrict the stimulation coming in. There's not a lot of movement going through these spots, to try to find a quiet spot. Yeah.
Question about what parents might do to be more proactive in relation to what you're just talking about. So you obviously have very effective communication skills. And so in the scenario that you just described, a young child might be running around a house trying to find a place. What recommendations would you have for family members where they might be more proactive, so that they don't find themselves in a situation with their child where their child is at that point where they're running around trying to find a safe place?
Yeah. Or their child's taken off altogether, because, if it's really easy at a large gathering for a kid to just go and to bolt. Or to say, I'm going to go for a walk around the block by myself, right, without a parent knowing, and now you have a missing child, which is not ideal. If you know that your child is going to get overwhelmed, or if you sort of predict it and think this might become an issue, if you're going to somebody else's house, asking them if there's a quieter spot that would be appropriate for your child to escape to, and then trying to build that. Because if you're at somebody else's house, they might say, well, I don't really want your kid just poking around, my house, climbing into cupboards where they shouldn't be. So having a spot sort of all ready to go, having a plan with that homeowner to say, hey, this might be a thing. Where is a nice quiet spot that my kiddo can retreat to? Mm-hmm. Can we have some options of quiet space? So either here or here, and then let the child pick which one. Try to communicate with that child beforehand. This is where we're going. This is how long we're going to be there. I have years of experience, so I just bring a backpack of stuff. So I always come with a backpack. So I've always got something to fiddle with. So if I become bored, I come with a sketchbook, I come with pencils, I come with a comic book, I come with fidget toys, with my Switch. I've got my phone, which has Pokemon Go. Like, I bring a bag, bring a bag. Or saying to your child, we're going to go, and then at this marker, we'll go for a walk around the block. Set that up beforehand. Make a plan beforehand. If you are having a panic attack, if we have a meltdown, this is what we will do. And talk to your partner about that as well, so that you're on the same page with your partner about if you need to be spelled off, if you need, hey, I can't handle this right now. Can you, everyone's on the same page. You have support around you as well while you're managing a young person who has needs, in these social gatherings, so that way you're not alone. But also that way, if you have other children, you are spending time with them too, and not leaving them by themselves, that you do have another parent to sort of say, okay, well, I'll trade with you, and that you have support that way around yourself. So let's make a plan before we get there. So if we're going to an outdoors event, let's make a plan before we get there. Let's talk about what we need to do if we need to leave. Let's make sure that we plan the best we can that we plan the best we can to make sure that our other kids are able to stay and get done what they want to do. And this can be a juggling act. And by the way, you won't get it right every time, and that's okay. There's a lot of times when I deal with my own anxiety that I don't act fast enough. And I'm in a code orange. So I'm experiencing some anxiety, and it's starting to interrupt my daily activities. But I think, I got this. If I push through, if I just, toughen up, if I just stick it out, I got this. And you know what? I don't got this. And a code orange becomes a code red, where I'm now in the worst case scenario. I have a lot of anxiety and I'm really struggling. And if I had acted faster, and if I hadn't said to myself, oh, I can tough it out, if I'd done that and judged the situation differently, we wouldn't be here. And there's other times where I jump too quickly, and I'm in a code orange where I'm experiencing some anxiety and it is starting to affect me. But I probably could have toughed it out. I probably could have waited. I probably could have used more of my toolkit. And I jumped immediately to, we got to go. And I got myself out of a situation when really, if I'd used more of my tools and I could have stayed. And there are times in both of those situations where I kick myself and I say, Elsbeth, you could have done better. So, that happens to me at 35. You are a parent, you are doing the best that you can. There's no manual. You won't get it right all the time. Forgive yourself.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So, it's apparent that you've got a tremendous amount of self-awareness around what works for you. And I'm just thinking about you, as that child in elementary school. You mentioned earlier, sadly, that you had faced a lot of bullying when you were in school. And I'm just wondering, I guess I spent many years in public education, and I'm thinking about all of those children who were like you, who are like you, and some strategies for educators that may be watching the presentation today. What are some things that you wish that they would have known, or strategies that they could have used to provide you support during this holiday season, which is fraught with winter concerts and carnivals and things like that?
I first want to acknowledge that teachers are underfunded and understaffed. And so, and this was true back in the 90s, and regrettably, it's true today. So there are a lot of times where teachers are saying, I want to do the best for my students, but I don't have supports. Or I want to do the best for the kids in my class, but I haven't been given the resources that I need to do my best. So I also want to acknowledge that teachers listening in, you are probably dealing with a whole lot of stuff, and you're also doing your best. Here are some of the things that happened for me, and a part of it was understaffing, and a part of it was undereducation, and a part of it was not caring enough. It was really easy for kids like me to slip through the cracks in the 90s. I think we know more now than we did then. In the worst case scenario, in those auditorium days, I didn't know how long the auditorium was going to last. My time telling skills were not good. So even if you said to me, it will end 25 after 2, I couldn't tell you when that was. And so I would sneak into the auditorium sticky tack that I stole off the walls. Today there's fancy fidget toys and all these cool little gadgets that are very mainstream. But back in the 90s, we had to rock this old school. So I stole sticky tack off the wall and I'd fuss and play with it. And that was my fidget to keep me occupied. But this wasn't a fix-all. Just because I had that stick tack didn't mean I was good for 5 hours. Not at all. It was a stopgap. So you maybe bought yourself an extra half an hour. And when that strategy went stale, I started to tear out my teeth. And I lost 4 teeth this way. On 4 separate occasions, I ripped out a tooth. So I understood at that time that I was expected to sit still and to listen and be attentive. And I was trying very hard to be good. But I didn't have the knowledge or the tools to say, I need to go. I'm getting bored. And more than bored, I'm getting fidgety and antsy. And now I'm getting anxious because I don't know how long I'm going to be here for. And I have to be good, but I really got to go. But I don't know how to say I got to go because everybody else is doing this so easily. So I should just sit here. But what should I do when I'm sitting here? And well, I don't want to play with the sticky tack anymore. And I've picked all the stones out of the bottom of my shoes. So I guess this tooth is kind of loose. So I guess it's got to go. And so keeping an eye on your student, how's their body language going? Again, how's that student? Are we really leaning forward? They're not sort of relaxed. Have they got access to other stuff? Let's not wait until that kid's tearing their teeth out. let's have a visual way that that person can count down. This is how long you need to go, whether they have a clock with them that counts down time to show them how long. And by the way, if we do have to go over time, let that child leave. Because if you've said to that kid, we stop at 2:25, that kid is budgeting for 2:25. And if you're going to 2:30, they're going to freak out because now you've said 2:25. I've mentally told myself, I've waited, I've been so good, and now it's 2:30. That's not going to fly. So allow that child to leave, or I mean, explain the situation and say, hey, we may have to go over time. I'm going to give you the option. Do you feel that you can stay, or do you want to leave? Okay. Exercise is great. Making sure that kids do have that time to run around. So I know that sometimes kids have to stay in for recess. I'm not a big fan of that because running around outside screaming is actually a really good way to get that kid to sit down and listen for a little while. So even allowing that child to get up and sit them somewhere where they're near the door. So they're not like in the middle of the row. So they have to like go past everybody to get to the exit. And let them go and maybe run up and down the hall or something, or walk up and down the hall. Allow them to have a quieter fidget toy. Understand that this isn't your solve. This is a stopgap. It will buy you time. It will not automatically make things, flawless. Okay. Keep an eye out for when this goes stale. Because if you're asking a child to sit for 2.5 hours, this may buy you an extra half an hour, but it will go stale. Keep an eye out for that. How can I communicate with this child that they have an option to leave, and how many times they have an option to leave? Because I mean, you don't want to like abuse the privilege either,
right.
But eventually, as I got older, it was, I can have this panic attack in this auditorium and everybody's going to know about it. And it's going to be awkward for everyone, or I can tactfully get up and go. And at the end of the day, I have to clean up after that panic attack. Like in my mind, I have to pick up the pieces. I have to clean up. My teacher doesn't have to clean it up. I do. And so as much as they can be mad at me, I'm the one cleaning the mess up that panic attack has left in my brain. So I gotta go, So yeah, planning beforehand, letting that kid know that there is an escape. Maybe you stand by the door, let them sit by the door so that they can leave when they need to leave. Setting up a space that they can leave to, making sure that there is supervision there. They're not just wandering the halls. Yeah, and keeping an eye out for signs of boredom.
Great suggestions. Thank you. So you've talked a lot about the communication to that child. And so one of the questions we have here is, how do you know with a kid that does not communicate well, if it is avoidance or real stress, because they're not wanting to do something or go somewhere? So this parent is wondering, or this educator is wondering, how do I recognize that so I will either accept that or keep trying?
This can be really difficult because, yeah, absolutely. There's lots of times where as an adult and as a child, I'm like, I don't want to do that. And there's a lot of times even for neurotypical people where they're like, I don't want to do that. I'm going to call in sick. People do that all the time. This can be a bit harder, but let's look at the behavior that goes around that activity. Does it come up only at that activity? Is it happening at the same time every day? Has something happened at that activity that is a reason why that person is avoiding? So for instance, we can have avoidance, like anxiety, that is helping us to avoid a situation. So you may have a child who doesn't want to use the bathroom at school because one time when they were in the bathroom, the automatic toilet flushed while they were still on it, and it scared the pants off that kid. The kid already had their pants off, but it scared the pants off that kid. And now they don't want to go. And so every time you're bringing that kid into the bathroom to wash their hands or use the toilet, they're avoiding it because they're scared. So if we can identify, well, the last time we went on a trip or the last time we did an activity, something upset this kid, maybe there's a reason that that avoidance is happening. If we look at stuff that's coming up, is there anxiety leading up to that activity? Like, has this kid been ruminating about this activity for a while? Mm-hmm. So let's look at that. And also, and this is the tricky area where I really want people to tread with caution and to communicate as much as possible, not just with that child, but with other people, and communicate with that child even if they cannot speak back to you. You need to assume that that child can understand you. There's been lots of times where we've seen kids who don't speak, but we gave them all of a sudden an iPad and they're typing very, very well. They understood the whole time. They just couldn't express it in a way that you understood until now. So we need to presume that this child can understand you. So still talk to this kid, even if they are not speaking to you or responding to you in words. I lost my train of thought there. Let's presume competence, but let's also still provide a way for that child to try again. Because even if I'm scared, sometimes there are activities that I do have to do. So for instance, I don't like going to the doctor's office. It's noisy. It smells weird. But I have to go because it's a health thing. Or giving people a chance to try again. So one of the things that I didn't like going to the IMAX theater because it was far too loud and way too much. So my mom, and this is how I picked up that one trick. My mom would get me to stand by the door. And that's how I learned about standing at the door. So that there was an opportunity to try again. It wasn't just, well, we'll never go to the IMAX again. Mm-hmm. It was, okay, let's try again. Mm-hmm. And so let's look at fear and say, which things do we really need to conquer? And which things are things that we can probably leave alone? So for instance, I went through a period where I had a lot of anxiety as soon as the sun set. Like if I was going out and it was going to be dark, I would try not to go. And that's pretty limiting and that's pretty invasive, especially in Canada when sunset is like 4 o'clock. That's really going to limit that person. And it was very uncomfortable to live scared all the time of the sun setting. And having to, go out and do activities after dark. So I needed to face that one. That fear needed to be addressed. I don't like roller coasters, but there's good news. I don't have to take a roller coaster to go to work. I don't have to, address roller coasters. You can live without them. So you're going to be okay. So let's maybe not put that person into that situation just because we think that they have to be on a roller coaster. Right. So let's say, let's look at what hill are we going to die on? Yeah. Is this fear something that we really need to address? Let's see how we can still offer a child a chance to try again. Let's look at the behavior before the activity to see if this is just an avoidant activity or if this really is anxiety. Let's talk to the family. Let's communicate with caregivers. To see what their opinion is, because oftentimes caregivers are are on, I mean, they're on your side. They want their kid to have a good experience too. So let's communicate with them and try to get to the bottom of this. It's okay to be wrong. And this one is a tough one because yeah, absolutely, you are going to get times where a person is saying, I just don't want to do this activity, but then you are going to have times where that person is genuinely afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm also thinking about honoring. They don't want to do that activity, right? Is another
Oh,
piece.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yes,
And
no is a full
I'm
sentence.
reminded of
And
something that I heard recently, which is that um, we find out what the interests are. We find out about autistic people's interests, particularly when they're children, and then we try to get them to stop doing those things that they really like doing. Like it's like the one group of people that have these specialized interests, and yet we're constantly saying, get off your iPad, get away from the television, stop doing. And yet these are the very things that they enjoy.
yeah, it can be really baffling to me as an autistic person because no one else is coming into other people's houses and saying, you have way too many scented candles. I need you to get rid
Mm-hmm.
of some of them, or calm down about the scented candles. Like, no, these are my scented candles. You like
Mm-hmm.
that sports team far too much. You need to talk about other things, or, not do sports things as often. No, of course not. So why are my interests pathologized? But also,
Right.
yeah, no is a full sentence. Is this child
Yeah.
going to die if they don't do this school activity? If the answer is yes, then we gotta get it done. But if the answer is no, is this the hill you really want to die on?
Right.
Um, and and we also need to understand that no is very valuable, especially amongst this population, because we we really train for yes. A lot of our therapies are about getting a kid to do something. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I will do it. And if you're good, you'll get a sticker, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we need to recognize that the word no is really important in our dialogue, because sometimes no is self-preservation. Sometimes no is making a good choice. No, I
Yeah.
can't go out tonight. I have a test to study for. No,
Yeah.
I can't, buy this extra book because I have to pay rent. No, I can't go out and do this thing because I have responsibilities. And so no is important, and having a child be able to advocate for themselves isn't just saying yes, it's
Mm-hmm.
also saying no. um so I understand that for teachers that can be kind of difficult, because you're on a schedule, you're on a program, you have to run this thing, and that's hard. But I think we also need to celebrate when somebody is able to say, no, I don't want to do this thing because I don't like it. And that's a part of being at school as well, as finding out what you don't like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, as much as what you do like. What do you like to do in school? Well, I really like art, and I like biology, and I like computer class, but I don't really like drama and English class. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
well, great. You found
Mm-hmm.
out what you don't want to
Right.
do. So,
Well, and I think, a lot of the criticisms that are being aimed at some quote unquote interventions are because they're compliance based and potentially setting kids up for abuse, for example. And so, as you say, like no is a sentence. And, we have to, if we've got children who are constantly saying, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, then where is that autonomy and that agency for that child?
absolutely. And I think about myself, where I do get into situations where the inside of my head is burning, but I think I have to be good, and I have to go along with this, and I can't be rude, and I have to, but at the same time, I am constantly putting myself on the line for the comfort of others. And after
Mm-hmm.
a while, that breeds resentment.
Mhm.
That can breed some real resentment. You know, and so we want people to be able to set barriers and people to say, you know, I don't really want to do that.
Mhm.
And it can be a balancing act, because at the same time, I'm also going to tell you that there are lots of times where I've had to push myself to do things I didn't particularly want to do in the moment, but I knew that I needed to get done, or that I knew that I I would get there and say, oh, I'm glad I came. So
Right.
it's life is full of contradictions, and
Yeah.
it's a balancing act, but it's important to teach no.
Thank you. You mentioned your sister earlier and
Yeah.
things your dad would do. Let's just leave a house that we're at because this is a loud, noisy party, and let's walk around the neighborhood and look at Christmas lights. What advice would you give to siblings who might be watching this presentation? What are some things that you appreciated?
Um, for siblings, I want to acknowledge that things can be hard. I can take up a lot of attention. I can have a lot of requirements. I might be kind of boring as a sibling to you because what I want to do isn't necessarily what you want to do. Um, and I'm not always like a typical sibling. Um, so that can be kind of difficult for siblings who say, you know, I want a sister who will steal my clothes, and you know, will teach me about makeup because she's older than me, and you know, talk to me about boys and or girls, or you know, dating life in general, or you know, and I don't do that. I, you know, I play Dungeons and Dragons, so you know, I'm not the typical sibling, and that sometimes things can be hard for the sibling, because I know, for instance, kids would go up to my younger sister in the playground and say, oh, you're Elsbeth's sister, are you as retarded as she is? Or families would say to their children, you can play with Jessie, but you can't go to her house. She can come here, but you're not to go over to her house because Elspeth's there. um, so that can be hard. You also experience some hard stuff, which is not necessarily about autism or disability, but it's about how other people, how society treats disability, and how society is by extension treating you. um, and your parents may spend a lot of focus on your sibling, and you may have resentment about that, and that's understandable. um, it is important for your parents to spend time with you as well. You are also important. You are your own person. You are not automatically your sibling's keeper or caregiver. You should not be parentified into or assumed that you will take over care of your sibling by your parents after they're gone. Um, it it is your life, and I want you to be happy because you're my sibling. Um, I want you to be understanding of me, even though I can sometimes be difficult or not always the best sibling to you. Um, I'm sorry that other people were unkind to you because of me. I didn't want that for you. I want you to understand and make an effort for me because you are my family. And that rejection from you can hurt the worst, because strangers will say things about me, but they're strangers, right? Like they don't know me, but you do, right? I mean, we live together. So sometimes we butt heads, and sometimes we get in each other's way, and sometimes we're resentful of each other, and sometimes I'm resentful of you because you get invited to other kids' birthday parties and I don't. And mom puts up the birthday invitations for you to go to other kids' parties on the fridge to remind that you're going to go, and you get to sing happy birthday to other children. And I don't get invited. And I'm jealous of you because you will probably be able to have a house and do things that I won't be able to. The world really was made for you. And so some things will come easier for you than they will for me. And sometimes I resent you for that because you can just get up and go. And I can't just get up and go. Or people won't let me just get up and go. And sometimes you're lonely because you want people to take as much care about you getting up and going as they do about me. So I wish that things were different. I know that you'll probably go through a phase where liking me isn't cool, but I hope we can get to a phase where being at least friends is good, even if I can't talk to you, even if I never say your name, even if I never say I love you. You will be your own person, and you deserve to have mom and dad yourself for a time. You know, like a reasonable amount of time, like people generally do, like kids do. You deserve to have mom and dad's attention, and you deserve to be able to go to your own things without, you know, having to worry about me. And I deserve to be able to go to my things without worrying about how that's going to affect you.
Yeah, so thinking about events, what kinds of things do you enjoy doing during the holidays? What gives you the greatest amount of joy?
I like there's this quiet period between New Year, like the 24th and New Year's, where nobody knows what time it is anymore. And I can just do art, and I don't have to worry about not being particularly productive because no one's being particularly productive. And I liked, when I was younger, I liked the autism social groups. We would go bowling, and we would get ice cream after, and the school gave us so much candy, and I got ice cream after that night I threw up because I ate too much sugar. I like, I used to like seeing my family. Family drama is wild. What we used to do, we go to church, and I'd be antsy, but we get through it. And then we'd go over to my aunt and uncle. And that was when I was too young to realize that the family had its own adult troubles and stuff. And even though as soon as I got there, I was like, how fast can I leave? You know, I was at an age where it was very forgivable for me to be running around and a bit wild because, you know, you're 8. So, you know, I like decorating the Christmas tree that we get. I like seeing my cats enjoy the tree that we get. I like opening presents because there is that anticipation, and a part of me never left 8 years old behind. I like the snowfall. I like having snow at the holidays. I feel like that really alleviates some of my depression because at that time of the year it's magical. Come February, no longer magical. But November, December, it's great. I like ice skating. I think the truest expression of my father is ice skating. The truest time that I was with my dad, who is still alive, by the way. I'm talking about him like he's dead. The truest time that I have been with my dad is when he's got skates on. He likes skating, and I like skating with him. Yeah, yeah. It's stuff like that. It's how quiet the snow makes things, because the snow muffles a lot of the sounds. So winter is very quiet. Yeah. Yeah.
You've mentioned depression a couple of times, and we know that depression is quite closely connected with anxiety. And so you just talked about things you do to try to stay positive. And I could see your face lit up as you were talking about skating with your dad and things. Like, how do you really, I mean, how do you stay positive given that you've got, these stressors in your life?
I mean, right now I'm going through a bit of a rough patch, but that's this time of the year. This time of the year is all about change, and autism doesn't do that very well. The leaves change color and they fall. The weather gets gloomy. The temperature changes. It's a whole season of change, and autism doesn't do that very well. I tend to bury myself in my own fixations of making art. So I draw a lot, and I try to focus on that, and I try to make sure that I go out. So there's free programming at the library every Saturday, and I try to go there, find other people who also like to play Dungeons and Dragons. I try to make sure that I'm kind to myself during this period. I know that I'm going to have anxiety, so I'm a little bit more lenient with myself on certain things. I try to say to myself, how can I make today better? What quick activity can I do that's really fun that I want to do? I talk to my social worker. I make sure I'm making my social worker appointments. I make sure that I'm seeing my psychiatrist. I have a psychiatric paper trail dating back to 1995. So for me, seeing a social worker is kind of like a catch and release program. You trap the animal, you check the animal, is it is doing okay? Okay, release it, and we'll trap it again later and see how it's doing. So some of the art that I do,
That's beautiful.
I make sure. Thank you. I draw from comic books. I read a lot of comic books. I paint. Build something that you like to do. That's very productive. I make sure that I'm not listening to depressing music. So I need to put away the Adele CDs, get out the Beyonce CDs. Spend time with my cat. I can't tell you how many times that cat has kept me going. She doesn't even know. She's too cute to know. Yeah, it's making sure that I am getting out, that I am exercising. There's a stationary bike in the basement. Do 20 minutes, just exercise, sleep properly. Yeah, talking to somebody. And when I do get to a point where I feel that I need to, I take my meds, like my emergency medication. I take my meds regularly anyway, but my emergency medication is there in case I feel that I am a danger to myself or others, and then I report it. These incidences don't come up very often, but there is a plan for when they do, which is to report and keep an eye on that behavior, and to medicate so that I stay safe and I'm doing well by myself. So that can be a really distressing conversation to have, but it's important that it is discussed. Yeah.
You mentioned your cat just now, and we know you have two cats. Your photo that you sent us for your headshot is a picture of you with a dog.
That's not my
You've
dog.
talked about your love of animals. And to those of you who have joined us today, prior to you joining us, Elsbeth told us a beautiful story of a cat that showed up at her family's home recently. And it has since been reunited with its rightful owners because of the care that Elspeth and her family gave that cat named Topaz. Animals in general, how impactful have they been to helping you with your anxiety and your
A
depression?
lot, a lot. We've always had cats. I love dogs. I love most fuzzy animals, to the point that my sense of danger is not so great. So I will 100% approach a wild animal and be like, let me pet you, let me love you. And they're like, go away, no. Uh, so that can be a challenge for your young person who is autistic and has a low sense of danger, especially when they love animals. They may 100% try to approach an animal and touch it. Um, uh, I love animals because they don't communicate in the same way that people do. Cats are practically autistic themselves. They don't like direct eye contact. That's actually most animals don't. It's a challenge. You're challenging this animal, and so I'm in great stead. Like I'm in great company. Great, don't make direct eye contact with this animal.
Right.
Uh, uh, they're often very soft. So touching them, petting them is great sensory. The good news is that cats and dogs love to be petted generally, um, generally, and so this works out for them and it works out for you. Cats like warm spots. So if I'm sitting around doing art, my cat will come and lay down next to me. And so it's this presence that doesn't require words. Um, you don't have to speak, but you can be understood. A dog has never called me retarded. Uh, my cat has never judged me. I mean, cats judge everybody, but my cat no, doesn't judge me for my oddities and my insecurities and my own personal garbage. She knows that I give her treats. She knows that I feed her. So we are good friends. um, and and my cat Cricket, the older one that we have that likes to come and be on my Zoom calls, doesn't like loud noises either. So we relate very closely that way. Dogs just love everybody. Dogs dogs will love you unconditionally. Dogs are just, you'll walk in the room and dogs are like, I am happy to see you. This is the best day of my life because you are here. No one loves you as much as a dog. Like just that, I can't believe you've come. This is the best day ever. And cats, you kind of have to earn it. They're a little bit more subtle about it, but when they love you, you know. And again, it's just I'm so happy you're here, but we don't have to have a spoken conversation to understand that. And I think that that's really powerful for people whose first language isn't speech. um uh, when your first language is behavior. um so me pressing my face into my cat is understood because cats rub up to say I like you, or I'm marking you as mine. And so my rubbing my face against my cat's fur is sensory for me, but it's also communicating in a way that my cat understands.
Right.
um yeah, it's it's just having somebody there who isn't going to judge you at all. um it's just really, really nice.
Right. Thank you. So you've talked a little bit about your drawing and you've shown us some of your beautiful artwork. And although your current big project doesn't relate to anxiety in the holidays, it does relate to anxiety related to medical appointments. And I just wondered if you wouldn't mind sharing just a couple
Sure,
of
yeah.
images and explaining a little bit about the work you're doing so people have sort of a bit of a teaser here for when it eventually is published, because it's really quite remarkable.
So one of the projects that I'm doing is making a comic, and I'm not the only one doing this. There's a group of us. We were given scripts um, from parents whose children out in BC receive medical care, often under anesthetic. So this can be a routine blood work, routine dental care that is often done under anesthetic, or more invasive medical care that is also done under anesthetic, and how sometimes these procedures can be extremely distressing for children, and oftentimes how it's up to the parent or caregiver to organize the appointments, the medical system, to navigate everything for their child, and how much that can be for them and for their kids. So the child that I received as my in the report does not have a name. I made up what they look like. I don't know who they are, and nor should I. But you know, I gave her a family. I decided she likes Bluey. I like Bluey, so now this kid likes Bluey. They'll just have to live with it. I really wanted to show that this child's a person. She has likes, she has a family. I wanted to show how she communicates. There's a page missing here, so you're going to have to do some imaginative work. Parents have to drive a pretty long way to get medical care. I'm sorry to British Columbia for this terrible drawing of your map. Some parts of your province now have more or less land than they did previously. I'm not a cartographer. So mom has to drive a pretty long way to get care for her child. She also has to be the one to organize appointments with with the hospitals, trying to make sure that everybody is on the same page, the staff at the hospital, that the appointment's going to go through, that the doctor's actually going to be there. And also she's trying to be a mom. Oftentimes parents have to repeat, this is my child, this is what they need, these are, this is what we're here for. And so the mom's there in different rooms, in different outfits, but she's saying over and over again, this is my child, this is what she needs. And she may feel a bit like a broken record. Parents may also feel completely alone in that they don't know how to navigate the system. They don't know where to turn. They may be isolated from other family members or within their community. And so the mom is really just looking for help for her kid, but she doesn't know where to go, or if she's doing the right things or calling the right people. So she can feel pretty isolated. One of the concerns is that waiting at the hospital is just waiting in a regular waiting room. There isn't sort of a quiet spot for her child to wait, so that often leads to anxiety and a meltdown. Her child's also pretty stressed because going to the hospital is pretty scary. There's people that will restrain her. There's needles. There's all kinds of stuff that's there. And oftentimes medical practitioners won't let mom be in the room with the child after a while. And they'll say, we'll call you when we're done. You can come back later. And the mom is often saying, well, that's my kid. And I'm here to support her. I don't really want to just leave. The next image is distressing. So I'm just going to give you a bit of a heads up if you choose not to watch. Her child is often restrained to have medical stuff done as she's sedated. And this can be pretty upsetting for her to have a lot of strangers putting hands on her and holding her down to do sometimes pretty basic medical stuff like getting blood drawn or having dental stuff. And mom often wonders why we can't just do all of this in one go. So when we have her sedated, let's get the blood work done. Let's check the teeth. Let's get, let's do everything we need to do so that we don't have to do it all separately. We can just get it all done and be done. The last page is just sort of a messy ink page meant to show somebody under sedation. So they're out cold. And the last part that I wanted to highlight from the interview with the mom was her saying that she felt that the medical staff didn't think that her child was worth it, was worth all this intervention, was worth all this medical care. And so I really wanted to show that in the last page and have the only text that was available to say, I don't think that they think that my kid is worth it. Mm-hmm. And to really highlight how that might be really distressing for people. So I still got one other page to do on that, and I've got a little bit of inking left to do. I'll get it scanned, I'll type it up, clean it up a little bit online, and it should be good to go. So yeah, that's
resource.
I hope so. I hope that I really like working in comics because it you can show and tell. Mm-hmm. You can show a lot of emotion, but you can also tell people about all the medical stuff and have that there. But you can really show people and make things very real for them. Mm-hmm. The reader can really identify and see what that looks like, and you can be pretty expressive with comics in a way that if you're just writing, you've only got sort of one media you just write. But if you're writing and drawing, you're using the best of both worlds to get your point across. So
I want to thank you. You've given us the best of both worlds today through your show and tell. It's been delightful to have you here for the last 2 hours. Your firsthand experiences are, from my perspective, the only way that we can truly gain in our understanding. We will never know what it's like to be you. But through sharing your heartfelt stories, it helps all of us to get a little bit closer. I appreciated your reference to the bridge metaphor, reaching out and needing people on both sides to create that bridge. I also really appreciated you talking about barriers, boundaries, but also the balance piece. And having the self-preservation that's needed to step up and say it's not okay, that's not okay, or this isn't okay. I need to do this to look after myself for now. And certainly your tools were applicable to young children as well as what to do to support adults from the school perspective as well as the family perspective. So I want to thank you sincerely for being here with us today. And I hope that this will be one of many presentations that you're able to provide for us. And we all, I know, look forward to seeing that finished product of the amazing book that you're working on now. And so I wish you all the very best for the holiday season, and the same to everyone who has been with us here today. And I hope that everyone has a happy and healthy New Year. And I look forward to seeing everyone at a later date. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me and taking the time today to be with us.
Thank you. Take good care.
You too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.